Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here. And you are very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Hello, and welcome to Friday's edition of the DCEU Daily. Well, it's Friday. You've worked hard this week, and you just want to relax. But before we get started, Boss Logic has entered the Snyder Cut poster competition. Not bad, eh? That's pretty freaking awesome. That's amazing. But this is Boss Logic we're talking about. The man's a genius. I'm not sure if he's actually entering, but I suppose he kind of is. If that's the standard, what chance have the rest of us got? But it's brilliant, and please do enter the Release the Snyder Cut Justice League, Zack Snyder's version of Justice League poster competition, RT Snyder Cut on Twitter. You'll find out how to enter, but that is really awesome. Also, a stuntman on Zack Snyder's Justice League released some footage of some action sequences of Batman fighting as well. It looked really, really awesome. You should go on YouTube and check that out. And I think it's going around on Twitter as well, so you'll be able to find that. Now, how are we with the DCEU, right? Are we happy with what's going on right now? And in terms of Warner Brothers, are they happy with where they're going with this? It's a big fat yes. It's a bit dark in here, by the way, isn't it? But yeah, I think they're definitely happy about what's going on. And I think we've just seen with the rave reviews of Birds of Prey that this film is, look, this film's going to make Shazam money. No question about it. And it's a solid. This film was never going to do what Joker did, because this film is just a piece of garnish. It's great. It's great entertainment. It's great fun. I had a great time at the movies, as I've always said. But look, it's not Shakespeare. It's not deep. It is trying to tell you something. There's a really big message there, and obviously it is a feminist message. You can't escape that. But when I watched the film, I just chose to ignore it because it's a good time in the movies, it's entertaining, and it's a DC movie, and I want to be positive. It's not a bad movie. I enjoyed it. So I wouldn't really come out and slate a movie just because I don't like the message it's pushing. Why are they doing this? Why are they pushing these type of messages? Because it isn't about attacking you and me. There's this whole thing about this message now about the middle-aged white man who's all-powerful and is bad and is evil. They're not really talking about us. They're talking about Donald Trump. That's what's going on here. This is why this is happening now. And this film really has got that message where these girls empower themselves. They're in a world where men hold them down and they rise themselves up. And what woman doesn't want to see a girl gang beating up a bunch of men for 2 hours? Let's be honest. It's their fantasy, isn't it? And also, if it's true that white men, middle-aged white men, are all powerful and they hold women down in the real world, then I suppose they do need a bit of escapism in films, because when they come out of that film, they're still not in charge, are they? Controversial thought, but anyway, right? So Birds of Prey is a solid movie. It's a really good movie, and I think the reviews are pretty much saying that don't go in expecting anything too deep unless you think the feminist commentary in the film is deep. I don't, but it does it in a very clever way. It's there if you want to see it. It's there if you don't want to see it. But obviously, this was Margot Robbie's choo-choo train from the beginning. She wanted to create a production company with predominantly women working in it, and she wanted to do a girl gang movie, and she's done that. Do I expect a Birds of Prey 2? Maybe, but without Margot Robbie. I don't think she would be involved again. I think if they do another girl gang movie, they'll definitely go with the Sirens, because I just feel it will be something different, and you couldn't have the Birds of Prey and the Sirens together. Maybe you could have the Sirens versus the Birds of Prey. That would be interesting. But I think this was kind of a statement of Robbie saying, I can form a production company with mostly women in it. I can do this movie. I've done it. It's going to be solidly successful. I've achieved it. I don't think it was ever a long-term thing where she'd do it again, again, and again. I think there will be other Harley Quinn vehicles. Obviously, she's back. Look, she was very successful in the first Suicide Squad. The most popular thing about the movie, probably why the movie made so much money, but really it was about the Joker Harley thing. People loved that. And that's one of the main reasons people were hyped about the first Suicide Squad film. So she's all popular. People love Margot Robbie as this character. This is why this film will do well for Warner Brothers and DC. It's not the high scale of box office, but it will do okay. Now, of course, anything under $1 billion, they will call a flop. Grace Randolph is really gunning for this film. Only she knows why. Well, she must be right-wing, right? That's the only reason she's going for this film. And she's trying to expose Rotten Tomatoes. Now, listen, we all know what Rotten Tomatoes is. It's the tomato meter and how it counts reviews and how it makes them fresh is really flawed. But it's been flawed through all those MCU movies that Grace Randolph has been kissing Kevin Feige's butt about. And when she's been referring to Rotten Tomatoes and being verified fresh, when it suits her, she wasn't exposing it. Now, because she's all crybaby, because Birds of Prey got good reviews and it's been verified fresh and really highly as well. I mean, it's in the late 80s still. I mean, that will come down, but it doesn't really matter what happens to your Rotten Tomato verification a few months down the line or 2 weeks down the line. All that matters is when you go into that release date, it's verified fresh and the reviews are somewhat positive. That's what's going to happen with Birds of Prey. It doesn't matter what happens afterwards. It happened with Joker. It kind of was verified fresh, then it went down a bit, but afterwards it doesn't matter what happens. It only matters what happens when you go into that release date, because you need that hype. This is what really hurt Man of Steel and BVS in terms of them not going in with a verified fresh. Unfortunately, something called Rotten Tomatoes does guide these moronic people who want to go and see films. Unfortunately, not me, not you. We know what we want to see. We know what we enjoy, right? But I'm afraid these people need people to tell them what to go and see. Anyway, so I'm not having any of that. Grace Randolph is on the agenda train. She's teaming up with the Fandom Menace. It wouldn't surprise me if she does a video on Geeks and Gamers or World Class Bullshitters or Neurotic. It really wouldn't surprise me if she goes down that way. It seems like she's worked out now. There's a lot of money to be made from the Fandom Menace and going down their direction. Unfortunately, they don't believe anything they say. They're fake right-wingers, but she's a fake as well. They all are. All successful YouTubers are. None of them are genuine. When you get to the level of success of 1 million subscribers, which none of the Fandom Menace are at this time, but when you get to that state of 1 million subscribers, you're not genuine anymore. You've got sponsors. You say this, you say that. Oh, please buy this, please. It's over. Once you get to that state, there's no genuine. That's why people should follow people like me. Anyway, I'm rambling. So the state of the DCEU, where are we? It's in a really good condition. Basically, Man of Steel made good money. I would argue that a Superman film should be crossing $1 billion. Of course it should, and should be verified fresh. It wasn't. Some people didn't like the filming style. Some people didn't like where the story went. I love Man of Steel. Batman v Superman also wasn't verified fresh, and any film with Batman and Superman in it should be crossing $1 billion. Fact. We can't garnish that. But I love Batman v Superman, and I think it was an indie type movie, wasn't it? It was a very different way of doing a comic book movie, but I loved it. Suicide Squad, again, got really, really bashed by the critics. Again, I think it's a solid movie, but these films had issues because of what happened at the studio. So then Wonder Woman was really the first darling of the critics from the DCEU movies, and we thought, right, this is a good, we're getting back there. And we thought, well, with Justice League, obviously we thought the critics would love that as well. Before we knew what happened, of course. Now, I actually made a statement that I said Justice League will be the last era for the DCEU. It will be the last misstep. I had suspicions when Zack left and Joss came in. I was already worried, and I knew there was trouble, and I knew that he'd been moved on purposely. and I thought this is going to be the last misstep. So because of what happened with Justice League, Warner Brothers and DC, they changed a lot of things. They moved on Kevin Sujihara, which was very important because he was a big part of the problem. He was the problem. So him being moved on and then pretending it was because of other indiscretions was very, very important. And then obviously bringing Walter Hamada in changed everything, because instead of having a director, Jeff Johns, and another guy running this thing, you run someone who's leading it himself, but he brings people in who are on the same page. Zack Snyder, right? John Berg and Jeff Johns were not on the same page. They wanted three different things. These are not three bad people. Neither of these guys are bad people. But unfortunately, these people were pulling in the wrong direction. And it can be healthy to have some healthy disagreement when you're a team on projects, but not on this level. So they weren't bad people. It's nobody's fault. It was stupid putting these people together. But in terms of Walter Hamada, he is in charge. He makes the decisions, right? And his decisions are freaking genius. Coming on to Aquaman, making relevant changes that needed to happen, right? Because they didn't want to go through the Aquaman, this movie sucks as well thing. Aquaman had to work solidly. I mean, nobody expected Aquaman. I don't even think Walter expected Aquaman to come in at $1 billion, but it did because of the changes Walter made. Shazam is a really neat and tidy, cutesy family movie with elements of horror in it, and it really worked. Zachary Levi's casting changed everything and really attracted families to that movie. That's exactly what they needed at that time. And then the Joker film really, really hit the spot. They gave someone an opportunity who had a vision. They let him do it. They didn't temper him. He was able to do what he wants. They got other partners to sponsor the movie just in case anything went wrong. And it didn't. Everyone made a profit. Everyone's happy. There is no negative with Joker apart from the reaction from the extreme leftists, and that's just their problem, isn't it? I would absolutely laugh if Joker wins Best Picture. I don't think it will at the Oscars on Sunday, but if it did, it would really upset their apple cart, and it would be hilarious. I think Joaquin Phoenix is a dead cert for Best Actor. I don't think there's anyone else who's come close, but we shall see. And definitely his speech he made at the BAFTAs the other day, about a week ago, wasn't it? I think they were voting for the Oscars while he was doing that. I think he did that speech on purpose, but that's just me being cynical. Well done, Joaquin, and I hope you win the award because you deserve it. And now we've got Birds of Prey, another solid entry. So we're getting a lot of solid entries into the DCEU. But now, it's the real deal. So Walter Hamada has been like one of these ninjas who creeps up behind you, right, and whacks you on the head. And that's what Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be. Wonder Woman 1984, because, with Aquaman and Shazam, right, it's been solid movies, good movies. It hasn't caused any, controversy or anything like that. But now Wonder Woman 1984 is the film where Walter Hamada really is going to make his presence count. This is the film that's going to change everything. This film is a game changer for this franchise. And what they're doing with this film will allow them to do the things they want to do with the Batman, right? And Black Adam. These films are very, very important. And to a lesser extent, the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's Suicide Squad film. That's a lesser extent because there's nothing, I think because they've got the same cast, they can bring new people in. So I don't think that's the film it will affect. But in terms of the Batman, in terms of what they're going to be doing with the Flash, because I do believe the Flash movie is Flashpoint Part 2, and I do believe Wonder Woman 1984 is Flashpoint Part 1. So I think since Justice League, and even before Justice League with Wonder Woman, I think in terms of mainstream audiences and critics, it's been going really, really well. And I think the issues that we had in the early stages of the DCEU, not my issues, because I love those early films, but the issues the mainstream and critics and bloggers and pundits had with this franchise as a whole. But now, is the big one. How are people going to react to what happens in Wonder Woman 1984? You've got the Snyder fans, let's be honest, I mean, and a lot of us, and not me and not the decent ones, but the rogue elements are always looking for an excuse to knock Hamada's DCEU. I always say to people, if you have to bring something down to raise something up, then what you're trying to raise up has an issue. Because basically, I can love Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and still appreciate what Hamada's doing. I want the best of both worlds, and that's exactly what I'm getting. So, as I say, yeah, Wonder Woman 84 is going to change the game. It really is for this franchise. It's going to allow them to expand the universe even more. And yes, what happens in this film affects what Matt Reeves is doing with the Batman, because it's really important. Then we can understand why Robert Pattinson is playing the Batman and why all of a sudden an actor of colour is playing Alfred, right? Because obviously... not out. What am I talking about? What am I talking about, right? I'll start again, right? Why an actor of colour, how an actor of colour can be playing, not Commissioner Gordon, but Gordon, because he's not the Commissioner yet in the Batman, as we kind of found out a few weeks ago. Now, this could be a simple recast. It could. It could be easily a simple recast. We've seen it before in other superhero movies. They just recast and they don't really make an issue. But it seems to me at Warner Brothers, they want to make an issue. They want you to know why what's happening in the Batman is happening, why Ben Affleck isn't there anymore. I think they want to explain it to you. And I think what happens in Wonder Woman 84 is going to explain the game very simply. And I think probably no Superman movie announcements to after Wonder Woman 1984, because once that film happens, everything changes, and as I say, it gives them an avenue to expand things and do a lot of interesting, exciting things. So what do you think? Are you happy with the current state of the DCEU? Do you wish you could just bring Zack Snyder back, or are you happy with what's going on? Have you seen Birds of Prey yet? Are you enjoying it? Comment down below, like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you then.